Hey, what is up? This is Adam with cloudautomation.blog. In today's blog, I'm going to talk a little bit more about XPENology and emulating USB drives as actual hard drives. Now, in my previous typed blog, yes, this is not the best idea, but there are an infinite amount of use cases for either eSATA drives or USB drives, external USB drives, to be used as internal hard drives. Whether it's test dev or, hey, I have this workload that I need to put on a USB drive, or I have extra USB drives laying around, or I have some serial ATA drives or SAS drives that will not fit inside either inside my server, or I'm out of ports and I need to use them. So you can buy external enclosures that you can use to mount those through USB 2.0 or 3.0 or even USB-C enclosures. So that's pretty much what I'm going to drill down onto. So what we're looking at right now is a Synology desktop. Just want to show you a couple things real quick. If I go to the storage manager and I go over to HDD, SDD, you will see Western Digital My Passport. There are 3 terabyte external hard drives as disk 21 and 22. If I go to PuTTY, then you'll see SDV right here. That's one of the external hard drives, as well as SDU, which is the other one. Now, just to show you a couple other things real quick, this is an XPENology build, which is the Synology DSM on build your own hardware. I built this using a AMD Ryzen, which, yes, might be crazy and a little overpowered for a NAS device, but my only other free hardware at the time when I built this was a really, really old AMD Athlon, like 3000 or 3200 plus, which is like a 125 or 135 watt TDP CPU. So just the CPU alone would be sucking a ton of power. And then the old motherboard only had like 2 SATA 1 connections and then like 4 IDE connections. So I wanted something a little bit newer. So let's get down into actually how to emulate USB or eSATA drives as internal drives to use them in a RAID array. So that's the real key here, is we want to use an external drive in a RAID group. So you can see here RAID 2, disk 21 and 22 are both in a RAID array. So a couple things to cover off real quick. So Synology knows, they build their hardware, right? So they know exactly what hardware they're putting in, and when the devices within their hardware will substantiate within the OS. So this is something that you can easily do. Hey, it's going to substantiate PCI Express devices first. It's going to substantiate maybe PCI or things off of a Northbridge second. I'm not really sure of their architecture, but they know they could have all PCIX in one device. They could have all things off of older hardware with Northbridges and Southbridges in another device. And they know that, hey, the first 10 or 12 things that substantiate are serial SAS or serial ATA drives, and then USB drives, and then eSATA drives. They know this, and the way they do this is they actually identify it within the configuration file. So what you want to do is go to sudo. You obviously need your password, which is the root password. So sudo vi etsy defaults, and then it's synoinfo.conf. And if you do a /, that's search within VI, and we can type in port, CFG. So you can see eSATA there, which is 0. And then I can just hit enter. It'll actually highlight that. So it'll search for other ones of the same, matches the same text. You'll see internal port config and then USB port config. Now what we want to do is we want to tell the operating system that all of the devices, or certain devices, are internal hard drives, whether they're USB or eSATA. As the operating system instantiates devices that it says, hey, this is a hard drive, or this is some type of device I can actually save data to, we want to say, hey, Mr. OS, this is actually a internal hard drive. So the way they do this is they use these, you'll see this in 0 times FFFFFFF. Essentially the original is something like this. So this was my original on my configuration, which was 4 ones, and a bunch of zeros, 4 zeros, and then 2 ones, and then you'll see here some zeros again, and then ones. And essentially what this is saying is, the operating system, the first 8 things that you recognize will actually be internal drives. The next 2 things you recognize will be USB drives, and the next 4 devices you recognize, so the next 4 pieces of hardware built in my motherboard, or if I've installed some type of a PCI Express SAS or serial ATA or internal USB controller, the next 4 are eSATA drives in this case. The configuration I did, just to save myself some headache, you could actually shorten this quite a bit, but I just said, hey, I have no USB drives, I have no eSATA drives, and everything you recognize, so all these ones are essentially, I think this is 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, so up to 40 devices that are found are all, I'm telling Synology that they're all internal hard drives. Even though they're USB drives, it's going to recognize them as internal hard drives. So if I go over here, you'll see that 0 times FFFFF. How do we get from the ones? All you need to do is actually figure out your configuration. You could do something like this if you want all of them to be internal hard drives. So this is binary. So what we're looking at here is the binary value. We want to copy this, paste this into here, do a convert, and you'll get the hexadecimal format. And that's that FFF. You can see I did all lowercase, so 0x and then all lowercase f's. Now you may come across the case where you have 6 or 8 or 12 USB ports on the back of your, or even on the back plus the front of your server or computer, and some of them you do want to be recognized as external USB hard drives, and then some of them you want to be recognized as internal hard drives. Now what you do here, the internal USB is you'd say, let's just say if I go back to my Synology box. So you can see disk 21 and 22 are recognized as internal hard drives, but they're actually, as you can see, they're the external hard drives. What you could do is you could say, disk 21 and 22, if I wanted those to stay as USB drives, I would go 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And then I would change this. So what I'm saying here is the first 10 drives, the first 10 devices you detect are going to be internal. The next 2 will be will show up as USB drives, which would show up in an icon right over here as external drives. And then the next 8 are going to be internal, and the next 2, so disk 21 and 22, would actually be USB external hard drives, and then everything else would be internal USB hard drives. In my configuration, if I wanted to have these 2 drives be recognized, just these 2, so I could actually plug in more USB hard drives, essentially device 23 and 24 would be recognized as internal hard drives. And then that same thing, so you take this whole piece here as well as the top one, you paste it into this converter, do a convert, and you'll get that number, and you just change that there. So just to go back so there's no confusion, I can come back here. If I copy and paste this, I should get that same C00. Yep, C00. And then the same thing with this. Actually, I didn't update that, so let's update this. Do a copy there. Convert. So the last step is just to take these values and copy and paste them into your configuration file. So you actually you'd edit them. So if you did that VI command, you can escape out of this. So you just hit escape, and you do an I for insert. And you could change this to whatever your actual configuration is. When you're done, hit escape. You'll see the insert disappear at the bottom, and then do a colon, so shift colon WQ for write quit, and then hit enter. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to mess with my configuration anymore. But that is essentially, the W is for write and the Q is for quit. The second place you'll need to make this change, so you'll need to do a sudo VI again, and then just an etc. And those exact same changes will need to happen here as well. So again, we can do a / port CFG, hit enter, and it'll highlight that. So make the configuration change here, and then make the same configuration changes on internal port config and USB port config. And again, the USB, the internal, and the eSATA directly correlate to my text here. So you can see the internal config, the USB config, and the eSATA config. This is my actual configuration. And with this configuration, my drives show up as RAID drives. I can actually go to the RAID group and just show you can see here 2 disks. If I go to, there's only one small catch. If I go to HDD, SDD, you're not going to get into this smart information. That's not pulled over the USB drive. I'm not exactly sure why, but I just wanted everyone to be aware that at least mine are Western Digital external hard drives. I do not get any of this. So you can see here, estimated lifespan, bad sector count, temperature. And if I go health info, yeah, it's failed to fetch that smart information. On any of the other drives, it's there. So you can see on disk 4 here, I can go health info, and that works just fine. Now, the last configuration change that you have to make for this to actually all work is you have to change the number of max drives that your Synology or XPENology box is seeing. And that's a very easy change within that same configuration file. So if I jump back over to PuTTY, if I do a / max disks, you'll see here, you need to change that to at least 24. I would recommend 24. You will need, the final step is you will need to reboot the box for any of these changes to take effect. The last thing I want to mention is when you have to reboot your box or do an upgrade, you will need to reapply those settings. So during the last major upgrade, I went from DSM 6.1.3 to 6.1.4. And when that upgrade completed, the settings that I applied were wiped. So you will have to reapply those settings when a update comes through. Now, when I upgraded from 6.1.3 to update 1, update 2, update 3, update 4, etc., all the way up to update 8, I did not have to reapply those settings. So when they make major changes to the DSM and to the configuration file will get overwritten. Lastly, when you have to do those upgrades or when you have to reboot your box for whatever reason, the system health will actually go to a alert status and say that one of the system partitions has failed. I think that's because the USB hard drive doesn't shut down properly when you do a reboot. If you just do a quick repair on that, it actually fixes it, and you'll then go to a good status. Okay, well, thank you for watching my video. I hope it helped. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or leave a comment on this video. Thank you.